So you may remember that I did a video on the channel a little while back about Tetris Effect Connected and how it helped me get through the grief and loss of my father just a few years back. Obviously, it was quite a personal video to me. It was something that I wanted to put together and it was relevant to the series that I was doing. But Enhance actually got in touch with me, the developers of Tetris Effect Connected, which kind of blew my mind a little bit. And they said that they'd actually been sharing it with the company. They said they'd actually watched it, and they were really, obviously, they were so happy to hear how it had helped me, but obviously sad to hear the loss of my father, and they obviously gave me their condolences for that. And they wanted to send me a copy of Lumines Arise as well. So they also did that, and they also sent me the soundtrack for Tetris Effect Connected, which I am so grateful for. Thank you so much for doing that. I didn't make this video to do that. I made it as a personal video to kind of like just showcase, what I'd been through, and maybe it could help other people. But the fact that Enhance actually reached out and they offered that to help me out, really touching, and I'm really grateful. So thank you so much for that. And if you haven't seen the Tetris video, it is still on the channel. Take a look, and maybe it can help you too. In a tough period. But that's not what this video is about. This video is about Lumines Arise. And again, a big thank you to Enhance for sending us a copy of the game. We're just going to dive right in and check it out, because I've been really excited about this one. I'm so interested to see, how it compares and, what the differences are. So let's do that. Yeah, so I'm just going to basically go through several different tracks. So I'm not going to play them in full, but I just want to kind of show you the game in general, and so you can get a good feel for it, but also you can see some of the different, backgrounds and aesthetics. Already you can see that this is just, it's very similar to Tetris in the sense, there's a lot going on in the background there, and there's a lot of this music is obviously playing a massive part in this. But the difference obviously is with Lumines, as some of you may know, is that it's kind of going from the side a little bit more. So you're still kind of creating lines. So essentially you're trying to, almost create, you're trying to create bubbles and you like for lines, but what you're essentially doing is you're trying to kind of like get them into bubble formations, and then there's a line going from left to right that essentially clears the grid for you. And so what that does essentially is whenever you create one, as you've seen there, it'll remove that from there, and then the pieces will fall down. And so basically it's slightly different in the sense of Tetris, but it's also maintaining a very similar kind of puzzle-esque vibe to it. So my experiences, admittedly with Lumines are not as deep as say they were with Tetris. I think with Tetris, I basically grew up with Tetris, and I even played Res a little bit as well, which is another game from Enhance. But Lumines, I did actually play a little bit. So I had it on the PS Vita. So I had a PS Vita a while back. I missed my PS Vita, right? I can't remember exactly what happened to it, but I think a friend might have had it and I never saw it again. But it's such a wonderful machine. And I think for Lumines in general, it was just such a perfect handheld game. This game is such a vibe, man. Look at this. This is beautiful. Like, so already I'm getting an interesting difference between the two games in the sense of, I think with Tetris that there was it was a very moving game. Like the journey itself was incredibly, when I was playing it, I felt extremely sort of like touched by what was happening and what was going on in the game at all times. It felt like it was relevant to different environments and scenarios. But I think with Lumines, this feels like I'm in a nightclub, man. This is like, I feel like I'm energized. I feel like I'm ready to seize the day, and I feel like I could just go out right now and just drop a couple of pints or something. But this is, but equally, like it's not just that. I think it's just very motivating, right? I think that when I'm here, I'm watching this now, and I just feel so inspired. And that's a very, I'm not saying you don't feel that with Tetris, because you definitely do, but I feel like that's immediately a different reaction that I'm having to this game compared to where I felt with Tetris. I think Tetris just kind of moved me, in an interesting way. But this is beautiful. I mean, like the visual representation is that, that you've got the background is just striking. There's all kinds of things going on. Like there's a man obviously walking there, but like you're seeing spiders and you're seeing hearts and you're seeing lots of things, just letters just falling out of the sky and numbers. The different color changes, like it's evoking so many different feelings. It's just beautiful. Look at that. And this is another example here. So you can see already how the grid changes as well. So it's very similar to Tetris in the sense of when you are looking at a grid, they all have different sort of like looks and aesthetics. So obviously that does create its own challenges. And I can say, as you're watching this is a lot harder. So I found Lumines a lot tougher for me. Maybe that's because of my lack of experience with the game, I don't know. But in general, this feels like a harder game. So I think with Tetris, I found I was able just to kind of switch off and just keep stacking and just keep progressing my way through without really thinking about it too much. Obviously you can, there's harder difficulties, of course. So I'm not suggesting I'm a pro by any means, but I think I would also use to take it easy with that. But I think with Lumines, I'm really having to think about placement a lot more here. I'm really having to be careful. I'm having to just kind of like keep just be very mindful of every action that I'm taking. It's very tricky actually, but in a good way. I think it's good to have a game that also it feels like a game, right? Like it's not just a visual or audio experience. This is a complete package, and that's what Lumines is feeling like to me already. It's such a beautiful game, and I'm very excited to play more of this actually after this video, because I want to see the journey through and through. On that note, of course, I am playing the journey mode in this as well, as you might expect. There are other modes, of course. There are challenge modes. There's multiplayer modes in this as well, so you can take a look at that if you've been enjoying the multiplayer component of Tetris. That's out the gate here for Lumines. And there's lots of different modes and methods as well that you can really take on and experience. So, but I think for me, like Journey is always my de facto go-to for these experiences, and I think it's just like the solo experience of these. What you're just seeing here, by the way, is like a boost as well, so you can basically freeze time, similar again to Tetris when you get the effect bonus, and you can just stack and try to get as many points as you can while you're essentially like when time is frozen, so you're not getting more falling down and cascading, so it's affecting the piles. Again, real techno vibes to this one. I think that is the huge thing, and this so suits Tetris. Like this feels more current. This suits Lumines. I think this feels more current. Like where Tetris is, it's an old game at this point, right? It's essentially retro. Lumines is more current, and it's always been about techno, and it's always been about visual representation and like the differences of grids and how striking it is from simplicity. And I think this is just such a perfect combination for Lumines in general, and it's beautiful just looking at this. But yeah, I mean, I think for me, like I hadn't just got around to this one yet. It was something I planned to check out. So again, huge shout out to Enhance for helping out with this. That was really appreciated. Oh, what you just saw by the way, on the D-pads on those. So essentially, if you keep lining those up, you can essentially get it almost creates like a chain effect. So you can basically start from the top of the grid right to the bottom if you manage to link them up together. So that's a great way of also just like knocking the grid right down to the bottom. You may have also noticed, by the way, that each level is starting fresh. It's because basically after every time that I played, I died or I failed right away. So I hate to say the word die. Like you don't really die in these games, you fail, right? So I think that's a different way of looking at things. But yeah, so I kept failing, and as a result of that, I felt like, well, I'll start it fresh, so you can kind of see the experience properly rather than me half losing in the middle way of the music, and you're losing kind of some of the beat there. And again, this isn't the full song, and I obviously can't play the full song, for reasons for licensing and rights. But I think it just kind of shows you here that this experience is just so, it's different but the same. And I think that's exactly how it should be. Like, essentially Enhance, what they've done here is basically done what they did brilliantly with Res and Tetris, and they've recreated that wonderfully with Lumines, and it suits so perfectly. Like, they all feel like individual games, which I think is quite incredible, really. And they all definitely, even though they're obviously very different, they're very similar puzzle games. Like, they have a very different sort of sense to them. I don't know if they will ever do Columns Enhance. That's really a bit of a throwback. So obviously Columns was on the Mega Drive, and that was one I played a lot as well. But regardless if they ever did a Tetris Effect connected to, I am there day one. It's for me, as I mentioned, it's still very much my it's my go-to game. But I can see me playing Lumines Arise a lot more, because it's as a game, it's very, I think again the mood is different. The style is very cool, and it really, like, obviously you're seeing this on YouTube now, but I was playing this on my 4K TV at home, and I was dazzled. Like, I literally was so dazzled. I think that's probably why I kept failing, because it's just so strikingly beautiful, right? And I think what it does is just really sort of captivates you in a way that, you know, games should. You know, I think when you are shown a game, like, I think like it's an experience that someone can watch or listen to, and they can feel like part of that experience even if they're not playing. And I think that's what these games do so wonderfully. Like, they really evoke feelings in other people, and they make them sit and reflect. This was a strange course, by the way. So, I mean, you can see it's essentially like puppet strings. I mean, look at the way the strings are moving with the blocks. I mean, that is incredible. That is so frigging cool. Sorry for the swear, but that is just so cool the way that's been designed. Really, really, really like that. And, you know, I think, again, the way that the variety in all these settings, I think it just shows you that, you know, the game can feel different but the same. You know, you're essentially doing the same things, but you are, like, it's iterating in smart and sensible ways. And also, like, the different use of color. Obviously this is more black and white. We've had some vibrant, you know, we've had some more bright and, you know, neon-esque colors. So I think, again, you know, the way that Enhance have kind of just enabled the game to just feel unique at each stage is just so smart. Yeah, and also, like, that, I love the fact here, like, you've got, like, the you know, like the fans, like almost like the computer fans, right? So essentially, like, it's a tech, you know, essentially, like, we're looking at computer technology here. And I think with these games, it's almost like, you know, like when I said with Tetris, you know, when I'm playing it, like, I'm thinking my own things when I'm playing it, you know, like, my brain is going different places and it feels personal to me. With Lumines, I think you can definitely feel that as well. But I think what I noticed with all these games is they do try to tell their own little stories, right? You know, this is very much a, you know, like, the use of puppet strings there. I mean, what is that indicating? Are we saying that technology is controlling this? You know, are we saying that technology is governing everything that we do? It's kind of true, right? I mean, you know, technology is everywhere, and then obviously with the rise of AI and things like that, technology is so incredibly connected to all of us, right? And so, you know, I think, obviously, I'm not necessarily putting words in Enhance's mouth here and what they're saying and doing with this, but, you know, like, I think what I'm saying is that these games they are trying to tell us a story at the same time as allowing us to feel on our own stories and our own interpretations on things. And I think that's such a rare thing in games, you know, like, and in entertainment in general, like, if we're allowed to enable to think and feel our own things. I actually did see recently a Planet of Lana 2, which just came out. They purposely don't have, like, you know, subtitles or voice acting in the game, because essentially what they want to do is, you know, allow the player to interpret their own version of events. Like, that's brilliant. You know, like, obviously, like, I think, you know, you need to have a narrative structure, and I think you want to have, you know, you want to understand what's actually going on there, and you follow a game story for a reason. But if you can also interpret, like, you know, what someone said to someone else in that moment in a slightly different way, but also reaching the same conclusion, that's awesome. And you know, it gives the game a bit more longevity, and it's a way to engage conversation with people, right? So when you're talking about a game, oh, I saw this differently. It's like, whoa, really? I didn't really get that from this. And it just, you know, creates these fascinating, interesting, fun discussion points. And this is really cool. So you've got fruit and veg here. I think actually these are tomatoes and lettuces, but I mean, it does change a little bit as well from apples as well. And again, just the creativity, right? I mean, this is fun. This is like Fruit Ninja-esque now. So it's almost like a reference to you know, one of that classic game, which I have not played that for years. Oh, gosh, I missed that game. But yeah, I mean, this is wonderful, right? This is just, you know, I love just creativity like this, just out of the box thinking. You don't really expect this to come from this game, but you're seeing it and you're like, oh my gosh, this is cool. And again, you know, the visual effects when you're seeing this on your TV screen and the way that it's interpreted and the way that it's presented, it's brilliant. And I love the way that the tomatoes are sliced there. When you look at that, the detail of that's brilliant. That's so cool. But you know, again, you know, it's just about expression, and it's just about showing the player what's possible and what you can do, and you know, where your limits of imagination can take you. And food is a universal language, right? You know, it's something we all know, we all need, we all want to eat, we all love it. So I mentioned there with Luminous on the left hand side, you know, I haven't really talked too much about the game itself. You notice there's a grid at the top there, 43%. That's how much is left at the level, of course. And then on the left hand side, it shows you what blocks or squares are coming down next. So obviously, you know, that's where you need to start positioning, and that's where you try to figure out you know, where to go and where to place. You see the little avatar in the bottom right there as well, so you can customize that as well. So depending on, you know, what you've unlocked in the game, what you've spent, and then you spend that credit on different unlockables, you know, and I think you can even earn some from multiplayer potentially as well. But, you know, essentially you can customize that avatar to suit you. This is the default one at the moment, so it's not, you know, too crazy. See, look at that's changed to peppers and broccoli now. Brilliant, 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 brilliant. So cool. You know, but it's very Ratatouille vibes, and you're just seeing fruit and food bonanza in the background there. Look at the size of that pepper. That's a giant. Beautiful. And I think this stuff like this also encourages you to try and get the biggest blocks possible for as quickly as you can, because, you know, it's yeah, to see how large it grows and how large, you know, you can see the slices and the splits. But I think that's the thing I found tricky about this one, is that, you know, like the grid moves quick. It goes very quickly from left to right. So you really have to be fast and trying to find a way to get it, you know, to get what you need to get. You can see also in the shapes there, the man walking that was that was part of the Luminous introduction there as well. So I mean, just little effects and little details like that. There's also a bird in there as well on the golden side. So just a way to distinct and make things feel unique. Also to make the grid seals different each time. And also the music in this. I haven't really talked too much about it, but again, it's beautiful. This is a wonderful little track, and the way this ends is stunning as well. So this will be the last one. This will be how we close the video out. But this is just such a wonderful little game that you know, may have gone under the radar a little bit. So I think Tetris Effect got a lot of headlines when it came out. I feel like Luminous didn't quite get the same amount of headlines, and I feel like maybe that was because, you know, people felt it was more of the same. Maybe people didn't grow up with as much of Tetris, you know, like maybe they didn't grow up with Luminous quite as much as they did with Tetris. So obviously Tetris appeals to a broader audience. But I think, you know, playing this now, as you can see on the screen, you absolutely, if you enjoyed Tetris Effect even remotely, you will adore this. This is wonderful. And equally, even if you've never tried these games, if you know my video maybe inspired you, that'd be amazing if it did. Or you know, if you fancy just trying something a bit different, these games just, they capture spirit and soul and essence, and they just really just evoke such wonderful feelings out of you: joy, happiness, sadness, frustration, you know, all the emotions just come to play, you know, when you're into these games. And it's unlike any other gaming experience I've had before. And you know, Enhance have done it again here. It's like, this is, you know, maybe you don't like Tetris, maybe you prefer Luminous. This is the game for you. You know, this is how to experience this, and it's wonderful. It really, really is. And I'm so grateful for the opportunity to cover this. And this one's about to come to a close and a crescendo, so you should really be prepared for that. But hey, look, thank you so much for taking the time to watch this. Thank you so much for all the kind words as well. People have said about, you know, my dad, and you know, and literally my feelings and how I've coped with things, and obviously to Enhance, who gave me this wonderful opportunity to cover this. You know, this is Lumines Arise. It's on PC, PlayStation, and it's remarkable. You know, I think when you see a visual achievement like this, when you hear such wonderful, you know, iconic music, I think in some ways some of the music is actually better in this than it was in Tetris. To me personally, I mean, maybe that's just taste perhaps, but I mean, some of it is just stunning. And Tetris has an incredible soundtrack, don't get me wrong, but I mean, this is, some of the tracks in here are absolutely incredible. But yeah, this is Lumines Arise. It came out sort of late last year, and I do wonder at some point, you know, whether or not, you know, and the game does seem to be get updated quite a bit, by the way. So I mean, the multiplayer does get regular updates, which I was noticing as well when I was checking this out. So, you know, Enhance are keeping this one regularly. But yeah, this has been wonderful. Thank you so much for watching, and thank you, Enhance, for this amazing opportunity. I'm so grateful. Stay safe.